Okay, hello there, everyone, and welcome to this exciting new project, this collaboration between myself, Arthur Lynch, and my good friend David Nolan. David, how are you doing on this fine morning?
I'm very well. Looking forward to the very first episode of what hopefully is a very prosperous journey.
Yes, so listeners, I guess welcome to the Beyond Sports Science podcast. This is a podcast that is born out of an idea that I've had kind of simmering for a while and sort of born out of my own frustrations, really, with the field of sports science. And I feel like we could be doing more to improve basically enthusiasm around the field and job prospects. So, with that said, we'll maybe kick things off with an intro about ourselves, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what the podcast is going to be about. So, David, if you'd like to kick things off, could you tell us about yourself, what it is you do, and what you've got from sports science over the years?
Perfect. So, what it is I do is a question I often don't know how to answer because I often say I have a hobby of putting my fingers into many pies, and that is my hobby. So, as you said, yes, I'm a sports scientist and strength and conditioning coach, essentially, is what I call myself, along with being a range of other things. So, my background academically is first class honour degrees in sports science from the University of Limerick. When I left Limerick, I was then seeking PhD funding to go down the PhD route, was trying to get funding from various areas. And while that was ongoing, I worked in the food science department of UCD, University College Dublin, where I examined the effect of different dairy products and different constituents of dairy products on their effect of hunger and satiety in adults. So that took about 15 months to complete that research project that I managed there. After leaving there, I worked with a medical company for a little while, and now currently my current position is in Dublin City University, where I'm a PhD candidate, and my research is split between two distinct areas. So I carry out research looking at nutritional and exercise interventions for increasing the health of muscle mass and increasing muscle mass as people age, so in older adults. My applied PhD research is in strength athletes and looking at the inter-individual differences and reproducibility of interventions that influence maximal strength expression. So that's from the academic side what I'm doing. From the practitioner side, in third year of my undergraduate, I would have started the company Synapse Performance. So we are a sports science consultancy firm. We put out a lot of educational content. We do online coaching with athletic populations. I have two chartered physiotherapists in the company with me, Evan Fitzgerald and Paul Ruan. And together, we put together a load of resources then as well. Personally, I host the Synapse Performance podcast. And along with my roles, I am currently the head of performance at Rugby Academy Ireland. So I look after everything athletic development wise there. And then on top of all that, I am a research and development officer with Uplift. So that is a strength and conditioning based software. So I look after the kind of ongoing enhancement and promotion of that software. So pretty much all around, that's what I do. I'm a researcher, a coach, a practitioner, and a sports scientist. So I don't know what title to put on myself if I was to pick
Mm.
one title, but that is my varied background. And I suppose sports science is the common theme between them all. I vary between strength and conditioning. I vary between clinical and applied work in a sports setting, and then even into the software technology side of stuff. But the running theme is that understanding grounding in sports science. So that is what I do. And now I'm going to turn it over to you, Arthur, if you'd like to introduce yourself to the listeners.
Awesome. So, yeah, so my name's Arthur Lynch. On the academic side of things, like David, I have a first class honours in sport and exercise sciences from the University of Limerick. Graduated in 2014. Spent a year in the academic wilderness where I just worked as a personal trainer and fitness instructor. And then in 2015, I started my PhD back at the University of Limerick, and that's where I am currently today. My research is in isometric strength testing, specifically looking at an isometric squat test as a measure of maximal force output in the lower body. And along with that, I've dabbled with various other different bits and pieces, even academically. So I've collaborated with yourself, David, with your research in weight cutting and powerlifting. I've assisted on some projects to do with healthy aging in older adults and looking at resistance exercise and nutritional interventions to augment healthy aging. And along with that, I've done some teaching. I worked as a teaching assistant. I've given some guest lectures here and there, that kind of thing, all the time, sort of building up the academic CV, if you like. And then on the practitioner side, then I've worked as a fitness instructor and personal trainer since 2011, I want to say. Yeah. That's in the UL Arena and in City Gym Limerick, where I spend most of my time nowadays, outside of the PE and sports science building in UL. I work as well as a powerlifting coach online for City Gym, and I offer nutritional guidance programming through Sigma Nutrition. I think that's the lot. I'm a powerlifter myself. I've competed in natural powerlifting and bodybuilding since about 2012. And that's where I would focus a lot of my coaching work. So if you're in any way interested in those endeavors, they would be interests that will be shared with myself.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
So I suppose what we want today to be is just a very brief introduction to ourselves, as we have done, and to what the podcast vision is going forward. And I suppose, as you said, this has built out this frustration that we had with the sports science industry, because within Ireland, we have hundreds of sports science graduates every year. When we go to the UK, I think the Physiological Society has reported 15,000 graduates on average a year from sports science programs. A lot of these programs entice you in with great job prospects, just great prospects out of doing that degree. And I suppose that is the job of a university. They're a business, essentially, that they have to bring in numbers, drawing people into courses. But the unfortunate reality is, although sports science does have a high employability rate out the far side, that a lot of people are in employment, very few of them are actually in employment within sports science. They may have gone down the business route. They may have gone into retail. Very few of them work within the industry themselves. And at the coalface, job prospects are very poor coming out of sports science if you do not put in the appropriate work during your undergraduate and put these foundations in place. And we'll talk about what those foundations are going forward. But I suppose that is essentially what this podcast is here to do. It's to equip current and prospective students, and maybe even recent graduates, with some tools and some ideas that they need to foster and grow during their studies, to give them the best chance of actually working within the industry that they want to work in and are passionate, hopefully passionate about, like ourselves. And I suppose from that, we will build upon our own mistakes that we've made in the past, what we've learned from them. We wouldn't like others to repeat, and we'll bring on guests from right across the spectrum of the sports science industry. So a lot of times sports science is billed as a stepping stone, that you have to do a master's or you have to go on and get a PhD afterwards, you have to specialize. But that is not the case in all instances. There are several people that have been very successful in many areas of the sports science industry that just have the undergraduate degree and have then built a successful career on the back of those, while others have gone on, got master's, PhDs, and furthered their career that way. So we will aim to bring on a range of guests that are going to talk about their experiences and how they've built up their career in strength and conditioning, academia, physiotherapy, or wherever they have went after their sports science degree. So that is what the aim of this podcast is. And I suppose myself and Arthur all know too well, we don't want this just to be another podcast. We don't want this just to kind of fall into the hole that all these other podcasts. It's not going to be a weekly thing. It's not going to be something that we're going to overcommit ourselves to, because as you can hear, myself and Arthur have quite a busy schedule, and we host our own separate podcasts. We want this to be very much a series-based podcast. So provisionally, we're looking to do a series of 10 episodes, release those, get some feedback, and then in the future, if it is positive, look to release a second or third series if needs be. But we want this to be pretty much evergreen content that we can produce, do a really good job on, and leave out in the abyss for people to soak up and for us to refer back to constantly. And what I should note before I finish up is we will do 1 or 2 question and answer episodes where any prospective or current students, or as I said, recent graduates, can send in questions and we'll delve through them and give our frank and honest opinion on those. So that is the vision I see for the podcast. And is there anything you'd like to add to that, Arthur?
Not really. I think like where it stems from with myself is, so this kind of running joke that, you know, you have a degree in sports science, good luck with your future job in McDonald's kind of thing, you know. And I suppose started trying to dispel that attitude or that dogma, you know. And how we're going to go about doing that, again, giving experiences from ourselves, getting advice from others in the field who have successfully gone through sports science and come out the other side of it employed, you know. And in a way, we're almost bad poster boys for this because we have gone down that route of continuing on in education to end up with a job at the end of it. But that was because we had academic interests. So,
but in addition to that, both of us do work extensively as applied practitioners outside of the academic realm. So there is other income streams or other jobs that we hold outside of that people could have went 100% into. Yeah,
absolutely. So that's it really in terms of what we're trying to reach with this. And I suppose the target demographic that I'm thinking of with this is the 5th or 6th year student in school, the 1st or 2nd year sports science student who's interested in sports science, but they're not engaging with it to the degree that I feel they ought to be if they want to come out of it with a job at the end of it. And I know from my own experience as well is that when I was going through sports science, no one was telling me, look, you need to be doing this, that, and the other if you want to come out of this the other side and get a job at the end of it. It was just, attend your lectures, attend your lab sessions, get your credits, and then at the end of the 4 years, we'll give you your piece of paper, shake your hand and say goodbye. So I want to do better by prospective students and try and hopefully improve outcomes and prospects for those people. So that would be all I'd have to add there.
Fantastic. So I suppose to wrap up, this is mid-December now. We're releasing this just an introduction so people know what to expect come January or February when we release the full podcast series. So I suppose that gives people a chance to get in touch with either of us, give their ideas, what they would like to see explored within the podcast, what would help them as a student or prospective student. So if people are looking to get in touch with us, I suppose the best way to do would be to contact either of us by email or across social media. My email is david@synapseperformance.ie and my Instagram handle is @synapseperformance. So you can find me on either of those 2 mediums. Send me a message and let me know what you would like us to cover. And then if people want to get in contact with you, Arthur?
Yeah, so probably the easiest way to get me is my email address, arthur.lynch@ul.ie. You can follow me on the social medias. So I'm at Arthur Lynch, all one word, on Instagram, and Arthur Lynch on Facebook. Either is fine, whichever social media platform you prefer. And that's about it, I think.
Fantastic. So I hope people are excited as I am for what this project's going to be. And I will see you again in January.